welcome to another one of our interior design features. Now, what's really important in a narrowboat, particularly when we're not in summer and it's the rest of the seasons, although this year sometimes it's been relevant as well, it's keeping the boat warm. Now, this is why these vlogs we are doing, we have to split them up, because they'll go on forever and ever. A walkthrough would just go on and on and on. So we continue splitting things up. Now, just before we start it, in our boat now, we have 3 ways of getting some form of heating on the boat and 4 ways of getting hot water. So I'll describe all of them as we go through other vlogs, but in this particular video, what we're doing, we're going to concentrate on the fire. Now, the fire isn't the normal thing what's on a narrowboat. We, over the years, like we've had multi-fuel stoves, but we thought they were quite dirty, and the ash was always building up and you had to dispose of it, and you're carrying coal round and logs and all that, putting stuff on your roof and all that. I just don't like things piled all over the roof. I just don't. And these are our choices, remember. So what we decided, and on our last 2 boats we've had fitted out, is we went for a diesel stove. Now, diesel stoves come in different versions. There's what they call the reflex stoves, which you can get in chrome, brass or copper, which look lovely, but if they get marked, they're marked and that's the end of it. So if you catch it as you're coming past or anything like that and you get a scratch on, that's not removable. But what we wanted was a fire what looked like a traditional multi-fuel stove, and that's what we had installed. We had one in our previous one and we've got one now. Different manufacturers, but they both sufficed for what we needed. So we'll get on with this vlog now, and you'll see what we've got and how we put things together. So first of all, in the bow of the boat we have this seating all the way around, we showed in a previous vlog, but this here is our diesel tank. It'll probably hold about 290-300 litres, so it's a big tank, and that's important anyway, because that means you're not having to refill it all the time. So underneath that seating is our tank, which will lead to the fire, and it will not have a pump, it will be by gravity, which makes things very simple. It's just very quick. We can take our seat off and then we're left with this this boarding on top, the non-slip boarding, and again I'll just show you how easy it is to take that off for filling. When we remove it, you know, sometimes we can put it outside or just leave it to the side like we are. This thing here I'm looking at, as I'll show you now, that is the filler, just like the diesel tank at the back of the boat. That's just the filler for our diesel, for our diesel stove. Now with the diesel stove, the normal fires have these big collars on, the big cast iron collars, but with our diesel stove it's a stainless steel top piece. So it is different. You can adapt them, but this is the piece what's normally made for diesel stoves. with the little cap on, and that just stops all the water getting in. And now we'll just show you the chimney, how that looks when that's on. So that's our diesel chimney. Now it's got a couple of advantages in my opinion. One, it never needs a cooler cap on top, so rain can't come in because it's covered in at the top, and it's also got baffles in it as well at the top, so it's not as affected when it's windy because it's not just completely open. So that also works really, really well, and it does look a lot different to the standard chimney what's on a multi-fuel stove what are on most boats. So this is our fire, and as you see, some fires, you can get fires what are in chrome, brass, copper, or you can get fires what look like a traditional stove in a narrowboat, and that's the type of thing we want. That can be maintained and cleaned, where if you get the chrome, brass or copper reflex stove, if they get scratched, then that's it. But these can just still be cleaned up to look brand new, even after many hours of use. Now, just before I show you how the fire works, just a couple of other things I just won't go through with you. The most important first is where you've got your tiles, behind there it must be fireproof because they transfer heat them. So you must make certain you've got something fireproof at the back. We have a 25mm thick calcium silicate board, and this complies with all British standards. Its thermal resistance is excellent, it is non-combustible and frost and moisture resistant, so consequently very safe. Now on to the next bit. Big tiles for us, remember it's always about what it's our thoughts this, so we say things but people have other ideas. We can't stand great big tiles in a small area because they look out of proportion. The other thing is as well, we don't like glossy tiles either because they look terrible. So we have picked like a matte finish on the tiles what we've got, and we've made certain they're not the big ones. And the other thing is, and again we think it's worked well, is where you've got your stove, white grout doesn't last 5 minutes and it starts to go black and dirty, and in no time at all it doesn't look nice. So we used grey grout, so it's already got that sort of finish, see, so it's just all grey finish, and that just looks superb all the time. And that's complemented by using grey fireproof silicone on the joints, and that works, it works very well there. So that's just a little bit of our thoughts. And we also, at the top, we add that finish properly as well, and with the brass finish and the metal, and that just gives a nice finish at the top. Now we'll just work down slowly now before we show you how the fire works. And if you look as I go down, there's actually two knobs here, one here and one there. Now, as we said, our choice was the diesel stove, and we've made certain we've got all our safety things, the isolation valve at the back and that. But this is the other thing what we like. This left one is what activates the safety valve. Now all you do with that is just press that down when you've got heat, and I'll show you that in a minute. When you've got your pot lit and you hold that down, just like you do for some of the old gas boilers and that, and the heat, once it registers heat after about 30 seconds, that holds the valve open then. So the valve's open, but nothing will come through until you turn that on. And that just, obviously you just turn that on and off to the level you want. And then you can just have it high, low, medium. So it's all quite simple and effective. And we just love it. So I've tried to just explain the basics here now, and the tiles and that, and we'll move on to how the fire works now, and we'll try to explain that the best we can. So I hope you've liked that little bit, and we'll move on to the next part. Now I'll just open this so I can give you an idea what's what. I have a torch here in case you can't see. But this device here, which is in the middle, that gets red hot, and that holds the flames in. If that wasn't there, the flames would be all floppy. But just like on gas cookers and that draws the flame and holds the flames because of the heat, and that works very well. Now I'll just get my torch here. Now if you look in here, if you can see it, that is the pot at the bottom. It's difficult to see it perfectly, but that is the pot at the bottom, and that gets diesel in, which you ignite using a accelerant, and I'll show you that later. The other thing it has here, which is that there, that is a thermocouple, and that's a safety valve, so if it ever blew out, it wouldn't sense heat and it would click off. So it's really safe, that. Now the accelerant I use is a little bit of this methylated spirits, which I pour into that pot there, and I just ignite it with a match. Very simple. So all I do, go to it, just there, that's enough, that's poured in, ready for me to light up. And again, this is all very simple stuff, this. And of course, this piece what I showed you, we put that back in now, and that's ready to be lit. So all I do is put that in there, and you'll see that that's ignited now. So you leave that burning for a minute or two. Now if you look carefully here now, you see that inside the fire's starting to glow, and that type of coil what I put down in the middle is glowing red. Now that means it is now hot enough for me to press the valve on the left hand side, which will open the safety valve because it's registered heat. So that there now, I hold that down just like as a conventional valve on a boiler or some of the older boilers. You hold that down and that will stay about 30 seconds, and it's just sensing all that heat there. The next thing to do then is just to get your valve on that side, turn it on very low, and the diesel starts to come through extremely slow by gravity from the back. There's an isolation tap at the back as well, so you can turn that off, but that isolation tap's open now, and very slowly the diesel comes into this pot. Now once you get used to how diesel fires work, I mean there is a technique to it, and you do have to do it a few times to pick it up, but it is so clean and convenient. and it still looks the business. But that's all burning nice and toastily now for us, for all weathers, whatever temperatures. And the other thing is, so many people say, oh, it gets so hot in the boat, and they open all the windows and doors, wasting all the fuel what they've paid for. But here we can just turn it down. It gets too hot, you just do it lower. Just turn it lower or as high as you want. And like I said, the main plus, you go to bed and the heat's the same in the morning. And finally, just one more thing, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen and used, but it's very handy. I'll just show you that in a minute. And that's this, known as the Eco Fan, a proper Eco Fan, not one of the imitations. And you put that on top of your fire, quite simply. I just place it there, and as that heats up, you see that one there, if you see that as you look up there, as that heats up, all the differential metals all move that little bit, and the design of the metal at the back in a flute shape, you know, a flute like a fan shape, sends off the front what looks like a brass propeller. Well, that starts to spin round, and that sends heat throughout the boat, and that is very effective. Well, in summary, we've got to be honest, we would never ever have a multi-fuel stove again in a narrowboat that we own. The diesel stove is clean. We don't have to think about lugging coal around, putting it on the roof, putting wood everywhere, fetching pieces into the boat, having it all hanging around like that. We can just top up the diesel tank at the front, and we have a couple of cans as well, and we can just keep it topped up. So easy, so clean, so controllable. We could never go back to the multi-fuel stoves. So for both me and Bernadette, it will always be, in any boat we have, a diesel stove. So you've seen our choice of fire stroke stove at the front, but I'll just clarify a few things as well. The price of one of them stoves is about 2.25 times the price of a good quality multi-fuel stove, so it is more expensive. But we've had the multi-fuel, we've had it in other boats, but the cleanliness and everything more than compensates, and we could never go back to the multi-fuel stove. Running costs is very, very comparable. In fact, I would say you're probably looking at, might be a little bit cheaper to run the diesel than the coal. But again, it all depends what you do. If you have to buy your coal, decent coal, not the rubbish, and decent kiln dried wood, you know, all dried out wood, and you have all that, then that can get more expensive than just us using diesel. But if you're prepared to just get the rubbish from the side of the canals, which plenty do anyway, but it's the damage it does as well, not only to your paintwork where it all scatters everywhere, but inside the flue and that, because it gets all this grime and all horrible stuff on it, which can quickly eat through a chimney and damage the fire. But that's people's choices. So basically the stove's 2 and a bit times more expensive, but running costs, depending what's what, you could say they're about the same. Now the other thing, just before we move on to all the safety bits and pieces, is keeping the glass clean. I hate seeing these a glass just full of, you know, and dirty and all that. And people use various methods. Some will just use scouring pads, which will scratch the glass and all that business. Then people will mess about with damp cloths and ash and do that, and what a blinking mess that is, because I've done that as well. So my brother-in-law uses something else. He's got his stove, and he came across them, so I'll show you what it is. And this is the name, if I can get it for you. That's the name, you can see that. So it's just, it is a glass cleaner. So you've got that, and that is what it looks like. And it just cleans it off. It just cleans it all off. It's great, it just cleans it all off, clean as anything. And that is a matter of a couple of pounds. You get a couple of them and they'll last for years. So I couldn't be bothered messing about with all the other things, and I'd recommend you using that, whether it's for a diesel stove or a multi-fuel. That makes life so much easier, and that's what our boating's about, making our life easy to enjoy it. So anyway, I've summarised and talked enough about that, and I think now we'll get on to the important parts, which is the safety on board narrowboats. Safety, so important, so important. There's been far too many fatalities on narrowboats, and even on, you know, on yachts and little boats and that, because of carbon monoxide poisoning and that, and not having the right equipment on board, which is quite sad, and it is avoidable. So safety, you can't overemphasize. Now we've talked about the fire, which we have things on, which I'll show you shortly, what we have to cover stuff like that. For example, this is just an example. I don't like these big, massive smoke alarms, what they stick on roofs and that in boats. I just don't like them. But it's better to have one of them than not to have one. But just in case you're not aware of these, that little thing, that is called an atom, and it's from all the, you know, it's available generally. If you go on the internet and you put smoke alarm atom, it'll come up and show you where you can get them. And it's tiny. Your battery goes in there, just hooks on. There's nothing there. Once it's clicked in, that's it. Now I hook it up at the front so I can take it off during the warmer months, but it's always there. But throughout the boat as well, we have other things, and it's not related to just the smoke alarm. We have, in addition to smoke alarms, we have 2 smoke alarms. We have 3 carbon monoxide, 2 battery operated and 1 wired. For cooking, we have an alarm system which I'll show you for LPG as well, because that's another. We have a couple of things got protectors on LPG, and I am very eager that people take this on board, because during my career, well, not the final years, but earlier in my career, and quite a bit into, as I was getting a little bit older, I used to manage engineers who dealt with gas and carbon monoxide poisons and that, so I know quite a bit about it. So whatever you do, don't cut back on the safety aspects. Anyway, now I'll go through these few things for you, and remember, please, this is one bit of advice I'll be quite pleased that you follow with, you follow. We'll go and start that now, okay? And when we talked about previously, this is where that hook's on here, and that's our smoke alarm in the saloon area. Again, not far away from where our fire is located. And again, that one's battery operated with a lithium battery, that one. Now in the saloon area we have a battery operated carbon monoxide detector, which is slightly higher than the actual fire, because obviously with the carbon monoxide it goes up first and then works its way down as it cools. So it's always better to have it higher than the source of the heat. So that's our first carbon monoxide detector next to the fire in the saloon area. And in the bedroom as well, above where we sleep, we have another carbon monoxide alarm. There's a particular reason why it's there, but I'll go into that in another vlog, but that's another safety feature for us. So that's in the bedroom, that one. Now this little device down here does two functions. Now remember, this one is not battery operated. This is all wired into the systems on the boat. But what this device does, and it's a piercing alarm this if it goes off, it tells you if we've got any carbon monoxide issue, so that's a third one, and also this time any gas leaks, LPG gas leaks. Because those who don't know, LPG sinks and does not rise unless you've got a significant volume, and it's panic stations then. But what we have, as you go down there and underneath the floor, underneath the bilge, we've got sensors for the gas. So if we have any gas escapes, it sinks down into the bilge and these sensors would be set off, and we get a nice shrill noise. But also we have something else, and I'll talk to you about that in a few minutes. So we're looking up here now, and that is the sensor for the carbon monoxide on that side. And obviously everything goes red if there's a problem. There's another smoke alarm, and this device, which we'll talk about again at a later date, is an alarm system we have in the boat as well. But for now we are concentrating on showing you the smoke alarm and the wired in carbon monoxide alarm. Right, this is the final part, because I'm so obsessed with safety, and I know not everybody watching this will have a boat and be as concerned, but if anybody is, there's something new come out, what I've added to the gas bottles in the gas locker at the front of the boat, or in the bow of the boat. And these devices are very, very good. I prefer them than the bubble testers or anything like that. What happens is, if you turn your gas on, it won't go through to any of your appliances or anything, not primed or anything, unless you press the little button down on top. And that will only stay on if it senses that there's no leak in the system. If there's a leak in the system, it won't prime, so you can't turn your gas on. And that's brilliant. The other thing is if everything was alright and then a gas leak started, again they'll sense it and cut the gas off immediately. Now that, coupled with our gas sensors what are in the bilge at low level, that really does give us a super safe LPG, liquid petroleum gas safety feature. And again, that you can't cut down on safety. I would think that should have been definitely be part of the boat safety certificate, because it's really good, and it is new in this country, but I suspect it's been used in other countries for a while, but it is new, you know, over the last 12 to 18 months in this country. So that's it, another one done, which I hope you enjoyed, and we'll do another interior feature sometime in the not too distant future. So it's ta-ra for now. See y'all.